Hey guys, some stupid sketch show guy here with another video, and today's video is something that I haven't fully done since 2018, and that's reviewing a dinotube show. Now, I've done videos like it, and you could argue some of my dinotube achievements are dinotube show and movie reviews, and honestly they kinda are, but I haven't just made a video titled and dedicated to just reviewing an entire show in like forever. But finally, I'm coming back to it, and under popular demand by the creator himself, I'm finally going to be reviewing the Dinosaur Discoveries, Dinosaurs of Emberwood. And for this review, this show will be rated in 3 different categories: the story, the editing, and the characters, and the ratings I give these 3 will be averaged out into the show's final score. You've seen this kind of thing in my prehistoric figure review series, but you've never seen me implement such a thing on a dinosaur show. Well, now you have. So without further ado, here's my review of the Dinosaurs of Emberwood. The story of the Dinosaurs of Emberwood is quite simple. You have a group of dinosaurs that have to travel from point A to point B, and each dinosaur is named after the species that they are. Now initially you might think that I'm talking about a dinosaur story, but just imagine that this is a dinosaur story, but with a slightly more focused plot, and it's on land instead of on the sea. And while the way I'm describing these 2 shows makes it seem like they're very similar things, Dinosaurs of Emberwood is executed in a completely different way, with it being a lot darker and grittier, and focusing more on the fact that these are dinosaurs living in the wilderness, and the wilderness is brutal, with lots of character deaths and serious consequences for the actions that the characters take, as well as multiple moral dilemmas when it comes to choosing whether to do the right thing or doing what helps you survive. And I do enjoy this tone because it strikes a good balance between the Dinosaur Island type shows that show dinosaurs in nature to the most realistic of degrees, to other shows which show dinosaurs in anthropomorphized and futuristic societies. This is kind of down the middle, where you have anthropomorphic dinosaurs, but they're still living in a dinosaur world and have to deal with dinosaur things, such as wondering when their next meal is going to be, when rain's gonna happen, and where the nearest waterhole is, etc, etc. And this balance between these 2 types of dinotube genres makes Dinosaurs of Emberwood harder to categorize, and also more unique amongst other dinotube shows. It stands on its own 2 feet, which I do enjoy because it's easy to say there aren't many shows like Dinosaurs of Emberwood in the dinotube community, and that makes it better. As well as that, despite the fact that the story is a bit predictable, there are parts of it that are made unpredictable to balance things out. The unpredictability is on who's going to make it to Hell Creek. It's never really been a question of whether they're going to make it to their destination. It's a road trip movie. Of course they're going to make it to Hell Creek, but it's a matter of which characters are going to make it, and is your favorite character going to survive? You know, kind of like Game of Thrones, which I do enjoy. But while this is all fine and dandy, I think it's far from perfect. The story could definitely have been condensed by at least 1 episode, as there are certain scenes that drag out for way too long, or could have just been cut entirely. As well as that, the show can sometimes be a little distracted when it comes to its main focus, which is the quest, and as well as that, the humor can sometimes feel a little out of place in certain segments, but overall, it's a solid story, and I'd rate it a 7 out of 10. Next up, we have editing, which is a very broad topic that includes a lot of different subsections that we're all just going to group into this one category. First, we have the parts of the editing that I think have the least amount of flaws. The background music, I think, usually is done very well. It amplifies the scenes, and there isn't really a part where the music really distracted me. The only thing I really noticed is that some tracks were overplayed a bit too much throughout the series, but that's the only real critique I could find with the background music, and even so, it does its job, it sets the tone, and it's done well. There are parts, though, that are done significantly worse, in my opinion. The action scenes didn't really grip me as much as they could. There's a lot of parts where the puppeting really just doesn't really convey the amount of intensity that we're supposed to be feeling here, and that's kind of unfortunate, especially with the Sarcosuchus scene. I wasn't really enthralled, even though the dinosaurs were being attacked by a giant killer crocodile. You know, it just could have been done better. And lastly, we have the characters. And the characters are alright. I personally think the biggest flaw with the characters is that there's sometimes a few too many. Like, some characters are only designed to be fodder and be killed, and other characters I just don't remember very well. Mainly some of the background herbivores. I mean, they pad it out, they make the story feel a bit more complete, but they're not really super necessary or contribute that much. But then there's the main characters, which I think are more interesting, and this is where we get into major spoilers, so if you don't mind, I'm basically going to spoil the entire series. We start off with our leader, T-Rex. Then we have the old and bitter Dilophosaurus, the guide Postosuchus, the sketchy Troodon, and the eyes, Pteranodon, as well as a couple of other characters that we meet along the journey. But with the characters that we start out with, the best thing about the characters is that they die. That is it's kind of morbid to say, but characters like T-Rex and Postosuchus, who have very vital roles, they die, which force the characters to have to make tough decisions and have to fend for themselves and take on roles that they weren't really designed to do. So, characters make mistakes, they blame characters like Troodon for things that he didn't do, just off of the fact that they just assume he did it, because, oh, he's a Troodon. That's one example at least, but he does get his redemption arc later on. And of course, they eventually meet other characters that fill those niches, such as Acrocanthosaurus, who guides them the last part of the journey and also gives some sage advice, and of course, the one and only narrator, Dimetrodon, who kinda is and kinda isn't a character because, for most of the series, he's just a voice, retelling the story, but then at the very end you finally meet him. And honestly, he's my favorite character by far. I don't know, I just like narrators like him, it's just enjoyable. But I also do enjoy some of the other characters, like the bitter Dilophosaurus. He just has a nice, unique voice to him. I definitely remember his voice over all the other characters' voices. I don't know, he just kind of sticks out to me. And of course, I'm a bit biased here, but I do enjoy Troodon because, well, I had the pleasure of voicing him for half the series, because the other guy ditched. But besides that, I couldn't really tell you too much about the rest of the supporting cast, besides how they sounded, and maybe one or two scenes they were in, which does kind of drag it down a little bit, but I'd say that Dinosaurs of Emberwood, for the most part, has a decent cast of characters, and it does a great job of putting these characters in subversive situations. For that, I'd give the characters a 7.5 out of 10. So, the final review of what we get is a predictable story with enough subversive meat to it to make sure that the series isn't playing it too easily, an editing style that is semi-competent but also very messy in certain parts, and a couple of memorable characters. And for that, the final rating of Dinosaurs of Emberwood is a 7.25 out of 10. And while that seems a little low, I do want to mention that I personally do consider this one of the best dinotube shows that we have seen in a long time. It's just that the bar is kinda low, so a half-decent show like this is honestly kind of a rarity. So that is partially the reason for why a lower-rated show is still considered one of the better dinotube shows we've seen in a while, and I do like to think that this show is kind of a work in progress for the Dinosaur Discovery skills, because with each episode, he got better and improved his skills, but just like with Paleoverse, you kind of had to start out with a bit of a mess, and then slowly but surely, you see something that gets better and better as it progresses. So, while the first couple of episodes can be a bit of a drag, I'd recommend you watch it just to see it improve as it goes on, just like with most of Discovery's shows, and, well, if he's this good by the end of Dinosaurs of Emberwood, how good is he gonna be by the end of Shadows of the Mesozoic? That's what we're gonna find out sometime. I don't know when he's gonna release it. Hope you guys enjoyed this series review. Comment down if I should review other shows in the future, and see you guys next time.